Okay, we're
Proceed.
definitely gonna get started. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Marvin. I'm the US and LATAM partnerships and events specialist at Songtrust and also Downtown Music Publishing. So my work focuses on connecting artists, industry leaders, organizations, um, to make sure that we foster collaborations and keep growing in the music industry, right? On both ends. I'm excited to welcome you all to the webinar of Funk Binsu. I think that's hopefully I didn't mess that up. Brazilian music's resurgence in the US market and beyond. So over the next hour, we'll go ahead and talk about Brazilian music on the global stage. I'll let Joshua take a little bit more and explain it a little bit more after everyone introduces themselves. But basically, we're trying to see or expressing what the connection is to Brazil and the US, why it's growing, why it goes up and down, many other things that have happened already over time. And again, we chose panelists that can bring a deep sense of expertise, expert knowledge, and also firsthand experience, right? Most of the panelists are Brazilian, have worked in Brazilian music. So we wanted to get that very authentic insight so that anyone that has questions about Brazilian music or just the culture could have, this sense of leaders that can answer those questions with that authority figure. Again, we'll have that 1 hour long conversation afterwards. We'll do a 10 to 15 minute Q&A. So if you guys have questions, you can drop them in the chat, but we're gonna go ahead and go over those questions at the end of the webinar. So thank you again for joining us. I'll go ahead and start off with Erica so she can go ahead and introduce herself.
Hello, guys. Thank you for being here. My name is Erica. I am a localized content manager at CD Baby as part of the marketing team. I work developing educational contents, videos, tutorials to facilitate the indie artist's life, as well as I'm also an author and a translator. And I go around also, teaching artists how to put their music out correctly. And I'm also a Brazilian. I live in the US, but I am Paraense. I'm from Pará, from Brazil, from Ilha de Marajó. And I'm honored to be here with this group to talk about and bring awareness to this. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Erica. Again, CD Baby is part of our ecosystem at Downtown Music. So Songtrust, Fuga, many other organizations. So thank you again, Erica, for joining. Next, we have Joshua.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Joshua Damata, and I'm a Brazilian born and raised here in New Jersey in the US. And I've been around multiple aspects of the marketing world, working with content, social media, partnerships with media companies, creators, helping artists reach their fans in new and creative ways. Overall, think of the different ways that we tell stories and how we show up online. And chances are I've worked in some capacity there, both on the music side and on the consumer and product side as well. So I'm really stoked to be here with everyone today, and hopefully we can all learn something new today.
Awesome, awesome. And Joshua and I were having a conversation about Brazilian culture and music when we met. So this is how this idea came about, right? We want to make sure that there is visibility, especially in the LATAM space. A lot of people, when they speak about LATAM, they tend to forget about Brazil, in the US at least, right? So we want to make sure that we're setting that precedent, right? More companies that are saying that they're working with LATAM artists also include Brazil in the conversation. It is the largest country in Latin America. Again, thank you, Joshua. Now we also have Thiago.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. First and foremost, I'm Thiago Machado, CEO and founder of Rank Music. I live in Miami. Rank Music has its presence spread in Latin America and the US. So we do digital marketing for labels, distributors, and management companies, supporting most of the time Latin music, right? That's kind of where we come from. We're expanded to other genres, but still Latin music is our, let's say, our sweet spot. So I'm super happy to be here to contribute to this, to talk about Brazilian music. As you're just saying, me being a Brazilian in Miami, opening up a company, one of the main points that I was trying to provoke was really what you just mentioned about having Brazil in the radar, because every time it's, Latin music comes to, I mean, anyone talking about Latin music, they 100% of the time forget Brazil as part of the region. So it's great to be here and to contribute to this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Thiago. And again, we are, excited to have you. This was a conversation that I had with one of your employees, Franklin, again, when they speak, when Ranked Music speaks, employees, they always mention Brazil. So that's one thing that caught my eye and wanted to kind of include yourself in this conversation. And one thing I wanted to point out, you just won an award, right?
Yes, we're super happy to to talk about this, but we were nominated for the Music Alley Music Awards, which happened yesterday here in London, and we won Best Agency for 2024. So I'm super proud of that accomplishment. Also very thankful, for the confidence of the clients and the employees who joined me in this journey. So thanks for bringing that in, but for mentioning that, and I'm super happy, excited, and proud about it, but also both feet on the ground to keep doing a good job. So that's it.
Awesome, awesome. Congratulations again. And
Thank
we're very excited to have you and to hear the insight that you have, especially as someone that, has their own company located in Miami. Thank you again.
thank you.
And then last but not least, we have DJ Yolanda.
Yeah, hello. Thank you guys for having me too. So I'm Giolanda. Actually, my name is Lucas Holanda. I'm DJ and music producer, and I was the author has made the had made the montage choral viral. So you probably know because of the song. And I'm here to talk about the our Brazilian culture and how our culture has been impacted by USA. How can be impacted for other countries. So that's it. Let's talk and let's discuss about this brilliant culture that we have.
Awesome, awesome. Very excited to start the conversation. Amazing, amazing. So again, we have a set of questions that we wanted to ask. I mean, that we are going to ask on this webinar. But again, this conversation is going to be very fluid. There might be other conversations that come up, interesting cultural points, interesting points in music. And again, we want to give our panelists the platform to be able to speak. The chat is open. Again, we're going to answer any of those questions, but we love to see comments. We love to see anything that anyone wants to point out. And again, this is going to be a great convo. So let's start off with the first question. This is a very, just to start off something very general, but I wanted to ask, well, whoever wants to share first, how would you describe the current landscape of Brazilian music and culture outside of Brazil at this moment? Like, what are some of the things that everyone is noticing, or anyone on this panel is noticing, with the interaction, just in general in the world, but also in the US specifically?
I can
What's
start.
interesting?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sure.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell what I told Joshua the other day.
Perfect.
Together with Jay Yolanda. When you guys invited me to this, it has been just a few days. I was in my room, and my kid, 10 years old, ran to me to show me a video with the funk music that was gamified. And he was, look at this, it's Brazilian and it's so cool, right? And I'm like, wow, it reached him without me saying anything. So that's a clear impact. His friends are listening to, and there's being gamified. So it's clearly out there no matter what. And for me, it started even earlier. I will get back just really, really quick to 2007 when I left Brazil. And I arrived in Barcelona and I made many friends. And one of the friends that I was introduced to, as soon as someone said, this is Erica, she's Brazilian. And of course, she called me, oh, Popozuda, right? She used the word immediately. And I'm like, wow, it's here. That was in 2007. So just a little point that from my point of view, this is a long time coming. Obviously, digital era, internet, TikTok, just speed up the thing, but we are there for a while. That's my perspective. It was amazing to see my son being reached without any, influence from me. And he's there now. His thing is cool. He's has received the funk, is gamified, and is there. So amazing to see.
That's great.
Joshua,
I
yeah, hold on, go ahead.
yeah, Joshua, you can go.
You
You have
sure?
a
No, if you want to go first, that's fine.
No, I was gonna talk about the MC Minor JP, MC Minor
Please
JP.
talk about him.
It
Yes.
was the one that it was like a month ago, and I was like in TikTok, and every single video that was rolling in my For You is like, quem é essa menina de vermelho? Always, quem é essa? Quem é essa? Quem é essa? So it was like viral, and it was like just one acapella that actually is not from MC Minor JP, but from Da Leste, MC Da Leste.
Yes.
That was an old song, and I was like, oh my god, how this became viral and got and bring a old song, a old Brazilian song that just got viral. Like we have Mr. Beast, that is one of the most popular YouTubers in the world, that was making videos with the song. A lot of people doing, trying to make a cover of it. So I was like, okay, this got viral. Brazil got viral. Brazil got noticed by the other countries. So something like that in my in my environment, my space, my TikTok space, it was like that.
Brasil na área, velho.
Brasil na área.
It's fascinating seeing it as a Brazilian that grew up here, because like, and who also works in this whole crazy world of like marketing, social media, and all that. So I get to see it from both angles, and I'm equally as fascinated. So growing up, I would see that the people most aware about Brazilian culture would be either Brazilians or anyone that's like super into soccer, and then they would only know us for the beaches, soccer, and
And pagode
maybe
samba.
yeah, and pagode and samba. If and they don't know too much about it. So, oh,
Yeah, they
bossa nova
know
too.
a little bit.
Yeah, like they're like, oh yeah, it's the tambores
Rio
and
de
like
Janeiro.
yeah,
Rio de
girl from
Janeiro.
Ipanema.
Yeah, Garota de Ipanema, yeah.
But it's interesting
So,
how it evolved over these last couple decades. So I started noticing like in the EDM scene, it started really bubbling up with like Diplo and MIA, like using body funk. Beyonce used it and Girls Who Want the World. And like
yeah.
from there, like radio silence for like the longest. But specifically these last couple years, I've been seeing it bubble back up mostly because of TikTok. Like moments like MCJP that you were talking about, Orlando, or like Bruno Mars heading to Brazil for the second time and making dedicated songs because he and artists like The Offspring, they were noticing how every time that an artist would pop off in Brazil, we would flood their comments and being like, come to Brazil, come to Brazil. So like I think the reason why we're coming into this forefront now is because we have our own thing going on and the world is finally starting to see it because people are sharing it, people are interacting with it. We're seeing even the Brazil shirt be worn by non-Brazilians, and that's the first time I've seen it at this wide of a
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah,
Now we
it's
have
not the
like
first.
yeah, we have like influencers saying like, "Oh, my this Brazil shirt instantly made me look hotter." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, it does, 'cause we're
Okay.
hot."
If you say so.
If you say so. But like it's fascinating to see this just happening and seeing people have always loved our culture, but they weren't too aware of it. And now because of funk, because of places like TikTok and all of these viral moments that we're seeing that we're sure to be talking more about as we go through this conversation. This is the whole reason why Marvin and I wanted to have this conversation in the first place. And it excites me to have the opportunity to start bridging that gap a little bit. And we're going to visit more of those themes throughout this call, but we want to make sure that all of this social capital, what we marketers call to like name the hype, name things that are in the moda. We want to make sure that this makes it back to the artists and the culture that made it all possible. So we hope that this
Yes.
starts a broader conversation in the music industry, especially outside of Brazil, in places like here in the US, to be able to
Mhm.
take it more seriously and pour into it.
Yeah, definitely. Funk was, always, let's call it, good for the ears of, Americans, right? Giving more of the American perspective, right? There was this sentiment that it was just a matter of pushing the right triggers and having the genre going a little more mainstream. I'm not sure that we are already there, but definitely social platforms like TikTok, as you guys mentioned already, Instagram, but more TikTok, I would say, put us on a very nice spot because first, it's very easy to use sounds, right, to create our content, and people are looking to fun content to make, and music that make you happy and joyful, da, da, da. So that's connects somehow to Brazil, because all of the beats and everything that you think about when you listen to a funk track is just cheering you up, right? It give you energy when you know, to wake up the next day, go to work, or to make to go out with your friends. So that's in one angle that I see this being a very technology enabling this easy to find, right, approach for grabbing a funk sound or a beat and do content or do music. This is one hand for sure, one of the enablers, and also Brazilians being very social, right? We for sure are outliers when it comes to utilizing social platforms, all of them, YouTube and Spotify. So this is another trigger, because it spreads, right? I mean, the minute something goes viral, it goes beyond Brazil and then sometimes floods into other countries. So for sure, those are movements. Of course, you have to mention Anita, because she's been raising the flag and bringing this the Brazilian flag, and then also the funk flag recently on her latest album that was nominated to the Grammys, this American Grammys next February. Yes, she's been doing that on a more mainstream, more having more visibility on the outlets out there and media outlets, and more of the music established platforms. But still, I think it's we've been seeing more frequently, right? Some sparks and some you can name here 4, 5, 6 different moments. Like last week, we were at the Latin Grammys and Emilia Mernes was performing live at the Grammys, and she was playing. She could have played, thousands of different songs, but she picked the one that she collaborated with Ludmilla, which is a pure funk song, right? So I was very impressed. Wow, she picked that track, right? Which is a pure, the minute it starts, oh, this is a funk. So I was super excited to see that too, because they take a long time to find which song they're going to be playing in that kind of environment, right? That kind of event. So why did she pick the funk beat to play in front of everyone? So I think there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of moments that we can name over here, but still for us to discuss what's next and how we can definitely see this as more of a mainstream instead of just like, a wave.
Yeah.
Awesome. This is a great transition, because the next question is that, right? What are the other ways? We did talk about TikTok. What are other ways that non-Brazilian folks, or just particularly people in the US, are connecting to Brazilian music, Brazilian culture? TikTok is one of the biggest ones. Like Olanda was saying, Mr. Beast, not just Mr. Beast, because TikTok has been doing its thing, right? Brazilian TikTok, it's been working itself to a point that you cannot miss it. So what are other platforms or other ways that we are seeing that for the music?
One thing that comes to mind is I'm seeing so many DJs starting to
Yeah,
incorporate body
definitely.
funk in their
Yeah.
mixes, like especially the ones that are heavily involved in the Afrobeat scene, and with like the whole hip hop culture here in the US as a whole, people are identifying more and more with the like 5 beat pattern, the batida. So like seeing that more and more just throughout like all of these boiler room type setups, and people seeing it again on places like TikTok, I think is part of what's going on.
Yeah, Joshua, you talking about DJs, and I just couldn't stand it and not thinking about Marshmello. Marshmello had make like 3 singles with Musão, that is one of the DJs in Brazil that got viral, and Torpekilas together with MC Deluxe. And it was like, oh my god, Marshmello that made Happier, that made a lot of viral tracks. And he just made three tracks from Brazil, from funk. Obviously, it's not the same funk from MC Minor GP. It's like it's like another segment of the funk, because as I just have talked with you before, we have a lot of styles of funk. Like funk is one of them, but Torpekilla's Marshmello had made two tracks in Brazilian funk, and I was like, oh my god, Marshmello is a DJ that inspired me to be a DJ, to me a music producer, has made 3 Brazilian funks three, like we call EP, né? EP.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, that got viral. Brazil got viral. Brazilian funk got viral.
And to that, DJ Yolanda, I would like to complement something. I think funk is by nature collaborative. It's
Yeah.
something that is
Definitely.
it invites collaboration, right? And
Mhm.
but we know that this comes from when you get back, it's come from the setting of the favela, of the baile, because you're here, you're sharing. But now it's global, right? It's digital. So you're sharing and you're collaborating internationally. How you make it work for both when you're talking about you know, because funk serves this digital landscape really well. You know, Tago was talking about how it this it serves, it matches, it's energetic.
Yeah.
You know, you have
Uh-huh.
those clips that is needed to create that engagement that you're looking for, and it spread like wildfire because, you know, you don't need language barrier is not even a thing right now because you're
Mhm.
looking for sensations, right? When you're scrolling, and
Energy.
funk just feeds this, and it really matches the landscape of the digital wildfire
Yeah.
collaborative um,
Totally agree.
right, that it gets. So I think with all this together, the viral becomes even more viral because we serve this landscape really well when it comes to you know
And I
what
think
the
that's
of it.
no, just to give more emphasis to that, when someone asked me why Latin music became a thing, I think one of the things, one of the aspects that really pushed it was the collaborative spirit, right? As you're saying, which is also true to Brazilian funk. Latin artists, they were by nature collaborating to colleagues, to others, because me being Chilean, I want to, be heard in Argentina, Colombia. Me being Argentina, I want to be heard in the US. So that's kind of how they help, we help each other, building those bridges, right? Crossing over to other Latin countries and potentially getting to the US. So that's for sure one of the main aspects that contributed to Latin music growth. And that's also a reality for funk. Of course, there is no language barrier for viralization, but there was somehow language barrier for, a Brazilian artist collaborating a Latin artist and doing funk, or maybe with an American artist. But as we grow as a genre, and as also the culture is more spread, I think those should be a little less important when it comes to, bringing producers to a studio and having them be creative about music and doing things together, right? The participation of Ludmilla on the Coachella, which was, there is a space for this music. There is a appetite for consuming more. I think that what follows, and what we should be also discussing and try to push as an industry, is really to have more of a presence into festivals, into, those opportunities that we still don't see that many. Maybe we can name a few opportunities that we saw as the one that I mentioned from Ludmilla, but definitely a platform that should be more developed, right? The booking platform, let's call it, or concert or festivals, so that it really becomes more stable, more concrete, and more mainstream.
So I know that Erica did mention a good point in the beginning, right? Now that it's becoming a little bit more global, well, not a little bit more global in general, you start to see the language, right? You start seeing cultural aspects. So what's the most exciting part about seeing Brazil coming onto the world stage currently? What does that look like aside from language and certain things like that?
From my point of view is that, you know, being funk specifically being a social voice, you know, you are in some aspects, you know, a bit in that bubble, and now your voice is also into the world. Obviously, there's entertainment. There's you know, funk doesn't talk just about problems or issue, but it is in by nature, you know, a kind of art that is expressive of the difficulties that a lot of these communities have. And I feel like now it's not just there, it's global. Even though, you know, it is in Portuguese, it is out there. We are talking about right now, right? We are bringing awareness to where is this coming from. So I think the best part of this is actually the discussion that is happening now. Is this fair for everybody? how can you prepare yourself as an artist, etc. I think the best part is the awareness that we're bringing to the actual nature of where is this coming from, and why it's important to know, when you are part of it somehow.
From my point of view is the how just I don't know if it's correct in English, but it's riffing, the ritmo, the riffing,
Okay.
because it's our riffing, it's our riffing. I know, it's like tu, ta 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 ta. There is no another genre in the world in the music style that has this riffing. So I think this, as a music producer, I I'm really happy that this kind of style is becoming more and more viral. Not just the writing, but the lyrics too, because how Brazilian producers um use the lyrics and modulate it to become like a something more euphoric in the songs is another thing. How can I say, we have, like, in Brazil we call marcação. It's like we got something like it's something our it's not like a EDM song or a house thing. No, it's funk. So me as a music producer, I assume that the writing and the lyrics, and also the way that the J's and music producer modulate and modify the lyrics are unique. So that's another point of view of this.
That speaks
Well,
to
there's this
what I've
question from
been listening
Eliton here,
to.
maybe that we can take live. I don't know. I love the question. I don't know if you guys agree. Or we shall answer afterward. I don't know how you want to do this, Marvin. Or
Sorry, can you ask that one more time?
yes, I saw this question from Eliton coming here on the panel on the questions here, not on the Q&A. Not sure if you want to take his afterward or because there's a chance here that we can answer live. So
Yeah, we could take it. We could take it afterwards. Unless what is the yeah, just because we're trying to run on time
no problem.
and get to all the questions because they're very good questions. So just to kind of speed things up a little bit, I will say this is one of the most important questions, right? When we're talking about appropriation versus appreciation, what is the benefit that we're seeing from two Brazilian artists from this globalized path that Brazilian music is taking, right? Because there's an example could be when people want to use the music and kind of go with it and give their thanks to the artist that they got that idea from, right? But we tend to see a lot of times with a lot of music that people don't give the thanks sometimes. So how does this look? How does this look now, and what do you think could be expected in the future, and what could artists do to kind of leverage what is going on at the moment, Brazilian artists?
Yeah, appropriation versus that's a great question. So I think that there is a it's um it's a joint effort, right? From publishing companies, from the CSACs, the BMIs, the chapels, the record labels, as well as the DSPs, because it's really complicated. Brazilian producers or artists being so far from the main US market, let's call it, right, as the gigantic market for in the music industry, to be collaborating if there is not or to be seeing this path as a sustainable growth if there is not a joint effort. Because at the end of the day, everything comes into the impact on revenues that it can generate, but it's pushing a new genre or something that is quite unique, but also that can convert into mainstream demands, a long-term movement, right? So that's why I think it's good to have this forum and to having more of those around, the other players in the industry, because there is a potential there that can be unlocked. There is an inspiration from K-pop, and also K-pop. I mean, it's a lot of investments, a lot of efforts didn't come from one day to the other. So that's kind of how things can be, should be perceived, and also uh, um, looked into more of a long-term result, more into a joint effort than isolated, sparks, right? So I think it's one of the angles is really to join efforts and have an agenda pro funk and pro the growth of such a nice a landscape that we can build together.
Just to complement that, and I agree with everything that Thiago just said, it starts with awareness, is also mindset as well. And from our perspective of organizing yourself as an artist, from the point that you have an idea, write it down, make sure you have everything, correct in your mind. So when the opportunity arrives, you're ready for it. If you're going to, submit your music, make sure the metadata is correct, that you give the credit to whoever needs to, because if it's out there correctly, the opportunity arrives, it's going to be easier for you to collect your money at the end.
Yes.
Basic mentality, but it does make a lot of difference. So as an artist, remember that from point A to point B, it's possible to get it really fast these days. I know you need to put the work, but the truth is reality happens, you might. So just be ready to have a mindset that you might get there. So, waking up, have your metadata correctly, have a review, give credits.
Yes, me as an artist, um, I can say that at the same time that it's really easy to get viral like a song that you produce or make. It's really hard to make your music goes to another people. I'm gonna talk about montagem choral, how montagem choral has changed in my life, my career, and how was hard to make um, the whole authorization with the original song with the copyright issues. So firstly, I just uploaded the song in the DistroKid. It was the first my first distributor. So I uploaded myself, and like in 3 weeks, Montage Coral got viral. So I was like, oh my god, I didn't have even reach out the Brazilian MCs, like MC Ciclope, MC TH, MC GW. MC GW is one of the most listened artists in the world from the funk. Anyway, and I didn't even have I didn't even reach out these artists and got viral. I was like, oh my god, what can I do? What I'm gonna do? And what happened is the Warner, the German Warner, yes, German Warner, just how can I say yeah, shout the music, and I was like, oh my god, what I'm gonna do, because I'm just like a single artist and I have like a whole record label that is behind the original song that shout my remix. So I I got I found Danielle that is also in this meeting, and we got all the authorizations. But firstly, we have like the remix got viral, and then I have to go after the authorizations. It was like 3 4 months, 3 4 5 months, so we can release officially the Montage Coral remix. So it's kind of a really tough business. We have to, you as an artist, you need to have a team. You need to have a backup team. You need to have someone that organize your ideas, your songs, your authorizations. So if you're an artist and you're seeing this, go after a label, or a CD Baby, for example, and make this connection, this networking, because it was really important. It really make my career to the another level. So that's it. Montage Coral changed my life. So because of the authorization. So uh, not just not just the authorization, but you know the whole this whole uh, this whole journey to make Montage Coral viral and got authorization and release officially correctly. It got a lot of time, like 6 months.
I'm
So
glad you were
you
able to because there are other artists that might hit that moment and then have to get all the way back because they are not
Yes.
able to. So it's a dance, because as an artist, you don't have the resources and you want to continue to create, but at the same time, we as an industry, especially in Brazil, I think there's a bigger conversation to happen about how can you make it a process that is fair for the author, for the creator, but at the same time efficient for the artist, because we are also winning, right? We are. So I think there's a bigger conversation there, but I'm glad that worked out for you. As an artist, my advice, and someone that works with artists, if you can do this process before, is even better, because then you're not as scared. But I understand that in that world, sometimes you just don't have the, you gotta go
Yeah,
for it,
we don't
and
have the
then
resources, we don't have this. You
the
have to,
resources, the time, the
yeah.
team. Yeah, I get it.
As an artist, just release it, release and work from your song, and then you go after. Obviously, after you have a team, you have someone to look after you. So you're gonna, the next release you're gonna make correctly, just how the way gonna how the way it is. But before that, if you don't have like a team, you don't have resources, do what with your do it with what you have. So because, for example, montagem coral, I just made in this room, in my bedroom, like in this computer, just in this seat, in this chair. So you have to try. You have to start at some point. So as an artist, this is my advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the better you do it right, the better chance you have to go further, right? I mean, you can reach other markets and etc. We were talking about it too on how Brazilian producers or music industry there is very focused in the country, and sometimes, there
Yes.
is just thinking outside of the country can open up the opportunity of being heard somewhere else, right? We discussed that on preparation for this, which is again exploring how social we are and how things can navigate across the oceans digitally, on how those collaborations can happen, on how if you have everything well done and put out there in every single aspect for when you're ingesting the song on a distribution platform, or pushing your lyrics are there out there, how it can be easy to be reached, easy to be discuss splits and all that stuff. So I think that's a good recommendation that we shall bring here to the table, but also not to just be focused on one specific market. Of course, the more you are legit and genuine to your audiences, the better chance you have to perform. That's the playbook of anyone that wants to develop fan base, right? But also looking into those opportunities out there on fostering collaboration that can go beyond your own country in this case.
And
Awesome.
it's so easy. Oh, what were you gonna say,
Go
Marvin?
ahead, Josh.
And it's so much easier to do so. We're in such a unique time nowadays where we have all of these digital platforms democratizing the process. So like just some connecting thoughts with some of the points that we're raising with these recent questions, like platforms like YouTube is what made this globalization possible for many cultures and many countries. And I think with funk, we're just living through our own version of it now, where we have major movements going from like Condzilla starting locally and then just going crazy internationally with songs like Boom Boom Tan Tan, and like DJ Holanda's song Montagem
Yes.
Coral is a great example of like gaining even more appreciation for our genre, because you released it during a time where people were already starting to like gain more awareness about the bachida that we're talking about, the rhythm, and it's starting to like come up on the fringes of TikTok, and then you see people within that funk genre, PHONK, that we'll talk more about, starting to borrow our rhythm and then calling and then creating this whole subgenre called Brazilian funk. And the attention that your song got, combined with all of those efforts, introduced a whole other entry point for the funk genre through TikTok and this whole Brazilian funk scene. So it's been going insane just seeing that cross-pollination. And it becomes even more important to start asking those questions, like where is that line between appreciating that culture, but also making sure that we're doing the same thing that made other genres successful, like Afrobeats, for example. we
Mhm.
have a similar tool set where we have a culture built around these genres that is prideful in where we come from, and we know about it and we scream it from the top of the hills. So what I see happening in these coming months is Brazilians like ourselves continuing to say like, yo, I'm glad that you're into this rhythm. Let me show you where it comes from. Let me show you what my culture is. And more people could start learning like, oh, it's not just this like electronic type of beat that I heard on TikTok. There's so much going on behind it. It's more than funk. It's actually baile funk with the culture of the bailes that Erica was talking about earlier. So it's about identifying those points in common and those points where our culture is gaining more exposure and being able to speak in those spaces as the owners of our culture to champion it all the more. And then the ones that aren't a part of it, having that open ear and being open to seeing like, oh, it's more than what I thought it was. So it's from a cultural aspect. We talked a little bit about the registration and the publishing side, which is very important. From the cultural aspects, I think all the more it becomes important to keep an eye on where those common points are. And if you're first coming across our genre for the first time, take that extra step to listen to some of the people that are in the genre that are from these countries to see that it's so much more than what you initially came across.
Awesome. That's a great point, Joshua. And now that you're on that topic of conversation, like I do want to ask you and everyone else, so what needs to happen for Brazilian music to have a stronger presence? What are the current challenges that are being faced from Brazilian music that, is either limiting it or possibly even helping it at times, right? And how could this become a more globalized and more normalized way of looking at Brazilian music?
I'll speak a little bit more with what I was saying now so that we can open it up to the group. And I think it
Mhm.
ties really well. So I think from a cultural aspect, continuing to um, kind of wave that flag and make those distinctions, like this is Brazilian funk, and then everything that's going on funk, for example, this is how it came about, and like that educational aspect of introducing people to our culture. Many people still trip up on whether we speak Portuguese or Spanish, so like the more chances we give for people to experience all that the Brazilian culture has to offer, and these genres being an entry point of that, I think the more we'll start to see people seeing us in the way that we really are. And then from the industry perspective, which I would love for us to talk more about, is taking this movement more seriously, recognizing that this is a wave that has been going on for a while. And what companies need to realize is you're you're always tapping into these cultures, but there comes a time where if you want to stand out, you need to be a part of the wave as it's happening, not wait until it's already at its peak and it's the maximum profitability that it can be in order to start your participation. So everyone from the labels to the distributors to the marketing companies, I think it's important to recognize this wave that's going on. We're all strategists here, we're all marketing managers here. We can clearly see that there is this increased attention on the Brazilian culture. So I think it's that much more important to start investing in it more and taking it more seriously from a structural standpoint. And I think Thiago had a great example about that when it comes to the booking side and the festival side. And I think the more that companies and um, people in the music industry can facilitate that collaboration, because all of these different audiences and genres are so cross-pollinated. Like there's so much that Brazil takes from inspiration from Africa. There's so much that Jamaica is inspired by Brazil by. So the more people we have on the industry side that see those connections and are able to take advantage of it, the more we'll see this genre blow up the more we'll see this culture blow up in a way that African culture has been blowing up these last 5 to 10 years with Afrobeats, with pioneers like Burna Boy really breaking that barrier the way that Anita is starting to do with Brazil.
Yeah, take this hook of Brazil influence. I think the most one of challenge is like to recognize what is funk, because as I talked to Joshua in the past, we have funk, we have funk rave, we have Mandela, we have a lot of styles that they came from funk. So funk is not just like no, it's like dun, din, din, dun, din. We have like a lot of styles that we can use in the funk. So for example, funk rave. Why funk rave? Because we have elements for the EDM and they mix with funk. So we have like a build up and then we have a drop and then drop like in the riffing of the funk. So I think the most challenging thing is to make people recognize and see that this is a Brazilian funk because for example funk um, how can I say funky has the Brazilian riff and it has the Brazilian lyrics. So why funk and not funk? So we got some theories that people didn't know that it was funky or didn't know how to pronounce it funky. So like funk, and then we have funk and not funk. So uh, people needs to know what is funky. The funk came from funky that use Brazilian lyrics, so it is a funk, and that is a lot of styles. Me, for example, I produce funk. I produce Mandela. Mandela is one of the styles that is really there's really how can I say characteristic character. Josh, help me out
Characterized.
characterize from the favela. So if you go to a favela, Rio de Janeiro, you see like Mandela, like tom tom tom, like this saturated beat, and you have like a strong kick, like a saturated kick that is if you is a you as a producer go like oh my god who made this mix who made this master and I was like yes this is the Brazilian Mandela. So there is a lot of styles that combine the rifle of funk and people needs to know needs to understand that all these styles is funk. It's not like oh funk Brazilian funk, no, it's funk, always has been funk.
I like how you describe it because, again, a lot of people have a traditional way of seeing music, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a template because what you said, this is a Brazilian way of making music. If someone is looking at it from a mix and master point of view, if they're, let's say, in Europe or in the US or maybe other parts of Latin America, this might
Hmm.
not seem to them a certain way of
Yes,
doing it, right? So I like that you're
totally.
in that sense. And it's the same with culture, style, like even clothes, where like the way you wear your clothes, right? Like this can kind of speak in volumes. This is how Brazilians make music and people enjoy it. And that's what would make it such a grandiose thing in the country.
Yes.
So my perspective is, I mean, there is something that plays against this movement being global. We discussed this on the pre-call too. Brazilians, they focus in Brazil because they can live out of it, right? They can create a career, they can live, make revenues and grow within the country, which may be not necessarily the case in Argentina, Chile, whatever. And then, of course, there's a lot of Latin people speaking Spanish that lives in the US. And then eventually this become a global Latin music becomes a global genre because of that, let's call it stairway, right? So I think for funk to grow in that space, it's more on the production side because also artists, any record label, any one that is pushing a one artist itself, we're looking to results in the short term, and sometimes it won't come in the short term. So I think it's more of on the side of the producers to help grow and to go through the productions song camps and production sections and all that stuff to help it grow. Because if you look into the more mainstream recent acts that we have, K-pop is a good example. They're always looking into it was brought by the brand, the behavior, a lot of social aspects behind, and they develop niches everywhere in the world. Latin music recently, again, because of the nature of the Chilean, the Argentinian, the Colombian doing music to be exported, and of course, sustained and triggered by a lot of Latin people living in the US, it could have, they could reach what they were able to reach, which is not the case. I mean, there's not by far much more Latins than Brazilians in the US, right? So it's much more difficult to create that platform. Although we have Bossa Nova is a global genre, MPB, Música Popular Brasileira. Everywhere you go in a restaurant or you're waiting for your doctor, you're hearing to MPB or Bossa Nova in the US, everywhere. So there it is out there, but for funk specifically, I think it should goes via the production, the producers, and that side of the industry, because it's more of a long term. It's working with all the institutions to give the capacity for enabling this growth.
Yeah, and I think talking about your expertise, Thiago, I think there's also something to be said about with all that levels, it does come a point, if you have the resources, that it's time to look for agency, that it's time to look for, you know,
Correct.
because it will give you what you need at that moment, which is the you already have. We know that artists usually go to a certain point, and then into that point ahead, they need help to continue to grow because they cannot do. So be aware of that and notice the signs and look for agents when it's time, have a team if you can. We know resources are hard, but sometimes that's what's going to make that last little bit. You're so close to the shore, get an agency, get the folks to do the job, because I think it's worth it. It's a worth investment when you're at that point.
Worry about your brand also since day one, even if you're a producer, because you can eventually become more protagonist on a track. So everything helps in that front.
Awesome. It was great that you were bringing up that everyone's bringing up these valid points, right? Again, Brazil is a very multicultural country, many different sounds, many different styles of things, depending on I would say like a state or province, right? Everyone has their specific touch to music or what have you. I wanted to touch back on what DJ Olanda was saying about funk, because I know we have a question in the chat. People are like funk, like it's maybe a new term for them, right? For folks that are not so in tune with Brazilian music. So what would you kind of say there, right? How has funk helped you? Do you think aside from that, like how many people are diving into your music because funk is a little bit more of an electronic sound, right? What can you tell us there to kind of describe it, but also give us a little bit more detail on it?
Funk, technically speaking, funk, as you said, is like a lot of EDM sounds and EDM samples that we mix in and then we produce and make the funk. So we have a lot of influence. As I said, we have a Brazilian funk riff, and so we have like dum dum, for example, like in this melody. But you have like the samples that you, for example, like a synth or something that you produce just as the DM, and then you put it together and you have the funk. But actually, what I wanted to emphasize that this kind of sounds, that this funk sounds, we had in the Mandela. So in the Mandela style. So funk just uh, made up my career. So it made me famous in the funk scene, like in the montagem coral. Have like everyone knows DJ Holanda because of the montagem coral, got really viral. So I think funk is this mix of the samples that he had. Like every funk producer, if you ask him, he has like this funky, how can I say, this funky pack. So we have like a Brazilian sounds pack, like a lot of acapellas, a lot of percussion sounds, percussion samples, like a synth samples, and then he mix up. But as a producer, I started this kind of style like 2 years ago in the pandemic, in the whole pandemic, COVID-19 thing. So I started producing in this bedroom, and then I got the idea from Montage Coral, and I was like, okay, I can make my whole identity in this music, and I also can bring the Brazilian style, the Brazilian rhythm. So people actually, Joshua, help me out. How can I say confundir?
Confused.
Confused.
Confused. Thanks. People confuse like um, what is aggressive and what is, for example, as I say, like Brazilian funky is a lot of unlimited ideas, unlimited style. So you have like what people say that is funk is like this aggressive funk that when it goes don 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 don, it's like everyone, oh my god. So uh, as a producer, I think the whole funky genre and style is becoming more and more violent and becoming more more, how can I say, it's splitting out in more of the world. So
Uh-huh.
I think it's something like that. Producers that are watching this probably will understand a little. I think you
Mhm.
guys also understood a little of my perspective. But
Yeah.
funky has made my life a whole another, made me to another level, make my career to another level. So I really appreciate it.
And Marvin, is it okay if I give a little bit more background? Because I think it'll be helpful for the listeners in the room. Like a lot of you are probably on TikTok, right? And you're like, okay, but like the rhythms sound the same and they're speaking Portuguese in both of them. So like, if you're still confused about that difference, I wanted to talk about a conversation that me and Olanda was having in preparation of this. And Olanda, keep me honest. Let me know if I'm saying this the right way. But
Hmm.
I we had a very similar impression, like just like as spectators. So I thought I might share it. Like during the
Mhm.
pandemic, like a couple of years ago, we started to see the funk genre go more viral in general, right? So within the Brazilian audience, we started to see subgenres like Mandela having that really aggressive style, like the boom, dun, 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 boom, dun, 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 dun. They'll replace the snare with anything. Like I heard dogs, I heard whistles, but that
Yes.
was still funk. What happened is simultaneously this electronic based genre called funk, Phonk, which is not to be
Mhm.
confused with Brazilian funk, which is
Mhm.
Funk, that simultaneously started to grow. But up until that point, they were taking from basically a standard four pattern on the club scene, just like or they were taking inspiration from trap music. What stands the genre apart is the sounds that they use. It's more video gamey. It's used in a lot of montage videos, workout videos. Like, wait a minute, let him cook. Boom, dun, dun, dun. So what happened is people within the funk genre, the P genre, they started noticing Mandela pop off on TikTok. And what they started to do is borrow our rhythm using those funk sounds, which is how we got
Yes.
Brazilian funk, Phonk. And
Mhm.
now presents the confusion by the time that DJ Olanda comes on the scene. I'd love for you to expand on this a little bit, Olanda, how people were confusing what you were doing with funk and this
Yes.
whole debate.
I started producing in montagem coral, for example. Like you, it was the whole idea was like a funk. It was not like funk. And then while my identity, my sound identity is the bass. So if you go to my Spotify and you hear my beats, and they always have the bass because I'm fascinated. I'm in love with the bass. I'm the artist. I'm the DJ that always loves the bass and of the bass. For example, I have this inspiration with DM artists, as I say, the Marshmallow, Skrillex, and I bring them to the whole scenario of the funk. So, um, like as I say, I have like IDM influence in the funk. So I was like, I was making vontade coral in my bedroom. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a funk from this, and then I made the bass in the synthesizer, synthesizer is.
Yeah.
Yes. So I make it based in the serum. So for the people that is producer, and I like don 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 in the whole beat. And I was like, okay, this is a funk. And then I released it, and then it got viral, and everyone was calling funk. And I was like, what the hell is that? What the hell is funk? And I was researching like funk, 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 funk. This is funk. This is funk. No, this is funk. And I was like, okay, but in my head it was like funk is funk. It's not like different styles. So I kind of made I was confusing myself as a producer. I was like, what is funk? What is funk? And then I realized that the people was using the Brazilian rhythm, but in the with these hip hop sounds, in the EDM sounds, EDM samples, and that's okay because music it's something that we can make from our art is
Mhm.
express what we're feeling. So if you're feeling that like, I'm gonna mix EDM and funky and I'm gonna make something new, that's right, because I also make things like that.
Uh-huh.
For example, the first I remember the Anita first feat, international feat was with Major Lazer. It
Mhm.
was like Na Sua Cara with Pablo Vittar and Diplo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is the first a cappella, the Brazilian cappella with the Afro. How can I say? It's not. It's an EDM. It's an EDM segment, but I don't know exactly what is the EDM style. But it was like, okay, Diplo make a song with Anita. So why not? Why not combine two different genres, two different
Yeah.
styles, and make a new style? So that is what funk came from. So it mixed the whole Brazilian riff and Brazilian style with this EDM sounds. So it's kind of hard to define what is funky, what is not funky, but it's also that is hard to define. It's really great to see this, and my mind automatically remember the whole funk style and funky riff and funky the funk culture. And really great. So first of
Nice.
all, a montagem coral was not like a funk vibe. It was like a funk. It was a funk funk.
Mhm.
So that's it. That's how montagem coral was made.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that explanation. And again, these are things that everyone on this call, this webinar, is eager to find out, right? Because there's so many different steps to this, and hopefully this is a push for something greater, right? More webinars that explain in detail or like the different genres or what have you. I know that we have a few good questions in here, so let's hop into the Q&A. Anyone who wants to respond on the panel can respond. But let me go ahead and get these through before we're wrapping up. So the first question is, we are seeing throughout the years many waves with Brazilian music and culture hitting US around the world. In your perspective, how can Brazilian artists sustain this type of viral movement, transforming it into a really good music or business opportunity?
I will start, but I will divert to Thiago, I think. But I think it starts also with obviously art is what you create is important, but your brand, what you put out, what you're expressing every single day will pile up, with that moment. Be ready for that moment because it will arrive, and also have a mindset of success, right? When you comes from preparation, from when you're planning your release, when you're creating, and also valuing your brand, who you are, and then making sure that you expose that and you're ready for that moment.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest angles is to really be ready for that and do everything right when it comes to first and foremost setting up your music and also your digital presence and explore that. As we mentioned over here, Brazilians are too social. There is this eager and this natural motivation people to use our sounds for creating content. So explore those routes, explore TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram to make your presence look good first and foremost, but also on the way you spread your music out there, right? So be creative, be open to other markets, and explore those synergies. Everyone is able to respond to a DM on Instagram, right, or to a nudge somewhere. So be ready. Let's call it music wise, but also brand wise, your digital presence, and explore those in your favor.
Also think about two things that seem to compete with each other, right? Think about the aspects. This is specifically for our Brazilian artists here. But this
Yeah,
applies to everyone. Think about the aspects of our culture that really resonate with you, that you're about. Start incorporating that. Start really identifying yourself with those things. And
yeah,
as an artist, think about the things that uniquely make you you. And don't overthink it like, oh, I have to have a brand and I don't know the first thing about that. Don't set all these barriers for yourself. Actually go inside yourself and see, okay, who am I? What are the things that I value? What are the things that I like to do with my time? What's the type of music and cultures that I'm a part of? And the mix of those things, both those external things and those things that intrinsically make you who you are, the combination of that is your brand as an artist. And then speaking more to what Thiago was saying, don't be afraid to post as much as possible, make as much music as possible, make like put express yourself as much as possible. Find the mediums, whether it's video, photos, find the mediums that come the most naturally to you. Try other things out, like, oh, I never used TikTok before. Let me scroll through it a little bit. Um, it's a combination of the two, things that come naturally to you, and also learning about where people are and what people are talking about. And the more you pull both of those levers, the more you'll start to see your brand come together.
Don't
yeah.
hide.
Being legit to your point, right, Joshua? Being legit about yourself, what you do, that's a natural brand. Sorry for stepping in, Erica.
No, no, I was just complimenting. Don't hide your brasilidade. Now is the time to be. It's. Oh, you're so fed by outside culture, which is fine. You can't have influence from outside, but now is the time to have your brasilidade be the strong point here. Don't hide it. People are talking about it. We are just talking about people are not very sure about the kinds of funk. Create a video, explain to us. Are you from the funk? Start with that. So yeah, I think all of that complements together. Brand and authenticity and believing in yourself as well.
Sure.
Yes, I think for example, when before I released Montage Coral, I was really afraid of this kind of style because it was not something that the people in Brazil consumes as listeners. So I was like, oh my god, if I release this, no one's gonna hear, no one's gonna listen, and if I say the numbers of the song, it's gonna blow your mind. Like we got like 1 million of videos in the reels of Montage Coral, and they have like a 3 billion streamings. So it's like a lot of people listening, and it was like, oh my god, this got viral. So don't be afraid to release your songs. Don't be afraid to release something that you are really insecure of your work, because every work is an art. you know
Yeah.
Maybe even if you start producing it yesterday, this is art. You can't say that. So you can say like it's not an art, it's not a work that you express yourself, making the beats, making the whole production, the whole composition. So
And make
I think
connections. Yeah.
I make connections, make feats. If you know someone that is making music too, is like a little of the same style, or if it's not another style, if you want to combine and make something different, go ahead. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed.
Reach out.
And reach
Reach
out.
out.
Yes.
Yeah, reach out. You might get a no, but who cares, right? The door
Yes, yes.
first.
Exactly.
Always if you know the famous artists always have this the first knows in his life, and then continue, and they are now, you think a Loki, for example, that is a Brazilian DJ, didn't have like
Yeah.
a first know in his start of in the beginning of his journey. So
Yeah.
just reach out, come on, and start producing. Don't be afraid, because one time is gonna you're gonna you're gonna acertar uma. How can I say acertar a
Got it one
música?
right. You're gonna get one right.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're gonna get one right, and then you're gonna make a lot of we have a lot of money. I'm gonna make a lot of feats, and that's it. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
And express yourself, of course, because it's very important. And that's it.
Awesome. I would want to ask the next question, but we're running out of time and it'll cut off right at the time. But again, I want to thank everyone on this panel. Anyone that has questions, please add all of the panelists on socials. Follow their companies. We have CD Baby, we have Rank Music, Songtrust,
Yep.
Downtown Music Publishing. Please add Joshua, DJ Yolanda, Erica, Thiago, if you want to ask those questions directly. This is not a conversation that can end here, right? This is something that could spark an ongoing conversation. Panelists, yes, please put your social handles on the chat so people can follow you, your companies or what have you. And again, this can breed more, right? Collaborations. Reach out to DJ Yolanda, guys. Like if you guys want to work with him. The companies, if you guys have any ideas to have more chats, or if you have questions, you can definitely I know that Rank Music has a lot of information on Latin America on their socials, on their website.
Yep.
CD Baby has CD Baby Brazil, so you can get connected there. And then on Songtrust on our website, we talk a lot about publishing, education. We have a resource center. So if you want to look at all the PROs, we have them listed out. If you need information about publishing, which is something that we didn't really touch too much on, but would like to make an importance out of, right? Registrations, all that good stuff. Please connect with our companies because that's the idea here, right? Not only learning the creative side, but the music business aspect of it all.
Yeah, that's
Again, I
awesome.
want to thank everyone on this call. This was a great webinar, and hopefully this sparks more conversations about Brazil in the music industry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
See you.
everyone.
Bye,
Guys,
guys.
Thank you, everyone.